This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on October the 12th, 2023. And this is the season for creepy stuff to happen. I like it happening with what I watch on television, but I don't mind having the odds sweet tooth as well. But you know what, folks? We are celebrating the 45th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite horror films and one of my all-time favorite movies, period. I'm talking about Halloween, which came out in 1978. I would have been 6 years old when that hit theater. I didn't see it at 6 years old, but luckily I have seen it a couple of times in a theater. So there you go. That's always awesome. And folks, my guest today, we got her out of class long enough to do this interview, because Jamie Lee Curtis is answering all the questions, so she is able to slip out long enough to do this interview. Folks, I give you one of Jamie Lee Curtis's classmates in that famous scene where she's gawking out the window and sees that ominous figure out the window. Folks, I give you Darla Rae. How do you do, Darla?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. This is kind of fun.
Well, you know what? Special thanks to Tommy Kovac. He brought attention to you, brought my attention to you, and
Tommy's great.
yep, yeah. Well, I work a cleaning job here, so a lot of times, like he'll throw ideas to me and whatnot. And have you thought of this person? Thought this part? This movie's celebrating an anniversary. And I'm like, okay, this is an idea. And I'm like, I haven't got to celebrate Halloween this year. I've had Sandy Johnson on 3 times, and once with her husband, but haven't didn't get to schedule this year. But I am going to see her at Frightmare in the Falls later on this month. But I do have some Blu-rays, and I got a Blu-ray of Halloween, and it's got um, Tony Moran's signature on there. I
Wow.
met him last year, and hopefully this year it'll have Sandy Johnson, Will Sandon, PJ Souls, and Nick Castle on there. So
Oh, excellent.
I'm hoping to fill this. I like getting my Blu-rays signed, and I got this
Yeah,
one.
so I just show I was out the other night at a play seeing one of my students act in a play, and when I came home there was a package from Amazon and I hadn't
Hmm.
ordered anything. However, one of my former sort of protege acting students thought I needed the collector's edition, the remastered one with all the interviews with, Dean on it and Jamie Lee and all that. So I haven't watched it yet, but it was a kind of a nice gift to come home to.
Yeah, and I've got this one too. This hardcover one, like a book, only it's got a
Oh, that
Blu-ray in
one.
it and a booklet.
That's a
Are
cool one.
you affiliated any with Sean Clark? Because he did that 45th anniversary bus tour with the Halloween locations.
No, not at all. But I know all of those locations. Having grown up in Southern California, and I mean, my grandmother lived in South Pasadena, so when we were filming, I knew exactly where I was supposed to be going, and had the opportunity to go to the houses and on the tour, and then Alhambra High School where we shot. So, I kind of know all of those places, but I have not been affiliated with a tour. Matter of fact, I'll be honest, I didn't even know somebody was doing that.
Oh, okay, because Sean Clark was trying to get new people out to that.
Hmm.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
have to
gonna.
check that out.
Yeah, I have Sean Clark on my Facebook list. He got Jamie Lee Curtis to her first con, and he got Nick Castle to his first con.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I should bring that up to him because I know he's been trying to get new people, and I know that he's affiliated. I should see him at Frightmare in the Falls, actually. So I'll ask him about that, because I know they've been looking for new people that a lot of franchise fans might not have gotten to see before. So I'm gonna
Mm.
bring this up to him.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah. Yep, Sean does a lot of, hollowed horror hallowed grounds and, Hollywood hallowed grounds where he goes along to locations to all kinds of, films, not just horror films,
Wow.
and, he
I
and he
think that's a fun thing. I mean, I love that kind of nostalgia when I'm someplace and I find out something's been shot, something particular that I like or I don't even like it, but I want to see, oh, now I see. It's interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of film fans actually like that stuff.
Oh, yeah. And what I liked about Sean is that he came up kinda like me. He used to be a worker at Spencer's Gifts,
Oh,
and he
Spencer's. I remember Spencer's.
Yep, so, like, it was just nice to be able to talk to him about how he came from Spencer's Gifts to booking these people for these cons, and, it's pretty impressive. I had him on twice. He does a podcast, it's on YouTube called, The Thing with Two Heads. He does that with, Chris Nelson, who's an effects artist, and,
Hmm.
so giving him a little plug here, so, I'm going to text him and, bring you up to him because never know, maybe it hasn't I know he's so busy. He said that when the bug hit, he said it was kind of the only break he had.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I know like, he wasn't able to come on this year on the show because he has just been outright busy with these cons, so,
Well, I guess that's good for him, right?
yeah, but I'll bring you up, I'm pretty sure he would love to hear about it,
Oh, I'd
but,
love to have a chat with him. Sure.
yeah, but, I wanna get a little bit of your background because I sat down and I watched this last night, and, it was kinda nice to do it, and, I've always loved Halloween. And, anyway, I'd like to get a little bit of your background, how you got cast in the movie, and just kind of a two-parter, how you got in the industry to begin with. Is it something you
Hmm.
always wanted to do?
Yeah, let me just say that yeah, I was very enamored with the industry. I had kind of gotten bitten by the acting bug, doing like just silly elementary productions and things like that. But when I turned, I think I was about 12 or 13, my household, we only had one TV and dad was the ruler of the TV. So we didn't get to watch much of what we wanted to watch, except when he went to sleep. Then one year we each got a little black and white TV, a little 13-inch black and white TV. And that changed everything because I could watch what I wanted to watch. And then I discovered, honestly, that you could write in for tickets to watch a show being taped, variety shows, Sonny and Cher, Carol Burnett, things like that at CBS Studios. And I wasn't old enough to drive. My mother would actually drive me in. And we would do that a couple of times a month because I was so enamored with just how all the workings, like I would sit there, they got to know me, by first name. If they were doing a skit that had ice cream, we'll ask Darla what kind of ice cream she wants. And so I would ask all of the people, well, what is your job? And what is your job? And so it's kind of my early industry education, and got to the point where if we were driving around uh, back in the days, CBS Studios and used to be Farmers Market, which is now the Grove, and you would see people all over the place. And then you'd see the big grip trucks, and you're like, oh, what are they shooting there? Let's go over there and look. And so it was just something I just wanted to figure out a way I could get on set. And I wasn't sure how to do it. My parents had no idea how to help me. And then I read in the small town newspaper that Max Baer, who played Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies, was
Oh,
shooting a
nice.
film. And he was shooting a film. I grew up in Azusa and it was in Covina. So I said, I'm going to go over there and check this out. Girlfriend and I went, drove over, and this stereotypical kind of casting director dude with this little fedora on was little glasses. Victor was his name, Pacheco, and he wanted to know if we'd like to be in the movie. And I thought, Sure, yeah, right, you know. So he explained that he was the casting director for extras and they needed people to drive the old cars. You know, could you drive a stick shift? You can drive it on the column, that kind of thing. And I said, well, yeah, I got a license, you know, I can drive. And he said, well, why don't you come back here tomorrow? We'll pay you. So we went back home, and of course, my mother's like, uh, yeah, I need to go check this out. This doesn't sound right, you know. So she went over and she's like, I'll be darned. It's the real deal. I mean, she saw all the vehicles and she's like, okay, well, just come home when you're done. And I got to cruise up and down the boulevard, kind of a knockoff film from American Graffiti, if you will.
Love
But
American Graffiti. Yep.
uh and Brian Kerwin was in that film, so that was like one of his first big acting roles. And as it turns out, I mean, I worked on that, got paid. That was like April 13th, 14th, someone there in 78. Couple weeks later, get a call from the guy, the same casting director says, hey, somebody's doing a horror film. Don't know who it is. Don't really care. He's giving me this like, do you want to do it? Okay, I guess, sure. I get to get on set again. Maybe I'll meet some more people. You know, I don't know how this is going to work. So we were shooting in Alhambra at the high school, and it was a different world because I was used to watching TV, how it was put together. So it was really magical for someone who really wanted to do that. And you know, I liked the story. We're all in the classroom, and you know, somebody hadn't put the screens up in front of the light bulbs, and something caused them, and it was really bizarre. The way it happened was that when she first sees him out the window, Jamie's staring. You can hear the teacher talking and everything. All of a sudden, they just started blowing up, like popping, pop, pop, pop. They're popping out, glasses flying, and of course, everybody's screaming and carrying on. And I thought it was really bizarre because I looked back out the window and he wasn't there, and it just was freaky. And so, of course, they want to make sure everybody was okay. And then they were like, "Oh, we forgot to do this. We're gonna have to reset everything. It's gonna take a while." And so, you know, it was just one of those bizarre, weird things. And people always say, "Well, do you think it was because it was Halloween?" And I said, "Well, it wasn't Halloween when we were filming, but I get where you're coming from." I said, "You know, things happen on production sets that there's no explanation. Technology that it's bizarre,
Mm.
you know." So it was a lot of fun, and really, I had a great time because I had opportunity. I was a person that was more interested in all the makings of what was going on, so I would ask questions. I mean, I talked with Deborah Hill. I didn't even know it was Deborah Hill at the time. Later on, I knew it was Deborah Hill, and you know, at craft services and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, well, what do you do? And oh, I'm the key dolly grip. Okay, you know. And so I found it fascinating because I was on set. They were like, you want to just hang here for the day and you can like kind of sort of work craft services and just watch what's going on. Heck yeah, I just wanted to be on set, you know. So one of my friends, he worked a couple different locations that I did. And so we've always compared stories over the years. And, you know, we each have our own Jamie Lee Curtis story. And I don't think I've ever told it in a call, actually. But people were trying to figure out who was the star. And well, they said, well, we don't know, just some chick. And I was like, okay, but like, has she done something before? No, but her parents' name is like something like, I don't know, Tony Curtis. I mean, these people didn't know who they were talking about. Like, so the guy says Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. I'm like, oh my God, do you know who those people are? I mean, I was familiar with them. No, I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And somehow, I don't even know how it happened, but I ended up sitting in the makeup trailer with Jamie and PJ was in there, and they were smoking a joint. So this joint was getting passed around this trailer, you know. So it people say, "What's your claim to fame?" Well, I guess I was an extra on Halloween, and depending on the cut you see, you may see me 3 times, or you may only see me 1 time. Just depends. The original cut, there was 3 times you saw me. But everything I've seen lately, it's only once, you know. So I always like to preface it like, you guys do realize I was just an extra on there,
Mhm.
but um, it really kind of fueled the fire in me to just want to do more. So, you know, one thing led to another job, and stage productions and directing and producing. Back back then, you know, we only thought girls only thought they could be an actor. They couldn't do anything else. So having spoken with Deborah, that was kind of an influence for me to know that, oh, well, I guess I could write. I can make up my own stuff. So it was really it was a stepping stone for me to get to where I am now currently. But sometimes people say, "Oh, well, that's the fairy tale story. That doesn't happen to anybody." I said, "Well, I wouldn't call that a fairy tale story, you know, but it is a story that it perpetuated me forward to do other projects." I mean, Independence Day and Powder and different things like that. So, one thing led to another.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting you mentioned, PJ Souls is gonna be at, Frightmare in the Falls, and I've
I love
al
PJ.
I've always had a bit of a thing for PJ Souls. Never had her on here, but I look forward to seeing her. I loved her in Rock and Roll High School, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed watching her last night in the movie. She was totally,
Totally, yes.
totally.
Exactly.
I love that scene where it's um Jamie Lee Curtis, Nancy Loomis, now Nancy Keys, and
Mhm.
PJ Souls just walking down the sidewalk from school and the beautiful neighborhood. And I love that because a lot of movies don't get development like that. You know, you get to see these three girls
Right.
acting like teenagers, you know, and I always loved that scene, that whole sequence.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up because the original cut that was actually released in the theater, um, you see me putting my books in the locker, and then I'm walking out in front of them with another girl. And so now you don't see me, the cuts that I've seen recently. But I always thought that too, because now as a filmmaker, I like to make sure I kind of develop that piece. You want to see that. And maybe I'm just really been influenced by that kind of stuff because I like it. So I do it in my films when I'm directing.
Well, all the cuts do have the ominous John Carpenter smoke going across the screen, cigarette smoke going.
Well, that is in there, and you can see it really well now in the remastered stuff, I'm told. That's what one of my friends was just telling me. He goes, "Oh, you've got to see this." That's why he sent me a copy, because he said you can see John's smoke. And I will say this, he did smoke a lot. He did smoke a
Hmm.
lot of cigarettes on there.
It's when Nancy Loomis there is at the head. Say, "Hey, Laurie, wants to ask you out," or blah blah blah, and you just see the smoke just go
Smoke
past
going through, right.
but yeah, just past Nancy Loomis's face. You know, it's just funny.
It is pretty funny, and I'm sure there are people thinking, "Where's that smoke coming from?"
Yeah, and of course, you mentioned Deborah Hill. Did you notice Deborah Hill had little hands? Because she did play the hand double for
Yeah,
young
right.
Michael.
Yep. It's interesting when you start really researching how people have a lot of different components that they've had their finger in that pie, you know, in a lot of different places.
Yeah, nope, and always loved it when John and Deborah did movies together. And if I'm mistaken, I think maybe Escape from New York might have been the last one they did together. I wish they did more though, but they were a great collaboration, and often I don't think of one without the other, you know, but
Well, I don't think I don't, but I
hmm
mean, I know they did stuff, separately
they did. Like
but
he did Adventures of Babysitting and stuff like that
right.
as well. Yeah.
But the thing is, the one thing we were talking about it because we're gearing up to do a sort of a faith suspense thriller. I know people are going to call it horror, but that's okay, because there are some horrific things in it. But I'm being very cautious because I want to have that suspense that John had so much and he did so well, especially in the original Halloween. And
hmm
there are little hints of it in other places, like I mean Christine, you know. So he's a master.
Yep, I love Christine. I actually saw a replica of the car at Frightmare in the Falls last year. You know,
Okay.
it behaved itself. It didn't try to run me over. So.
Well, I will tell you, 'cause I grew up in Azusa,
Mhm.
and they were shooting Christine over in Irwindale in this, I don't know, garage, whatever that location was. But a couple of us that had worked on Halloween went over there to kind of hang out a little bit, and it was kind of spectacular to see that car.
Mhm.
It was cool. It was a cool factor, and
Mhm.
again, he's a master at
Mhm.
everything he does.
Oh yeah, yeah, and of course I've had Sandy Johnson on here, like I said, 3 times, and love Sandy. I always send her a bag cat calendar at Christmas time, but she's gonna get this one in person because I ordered it. The 2024 one's already, so I'm gonna give it to her at
Oh, good for
Frightmare.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So Sandy, of course, was Judith Myers, and
Right.
I she and I remained in touch, and so I'm looking forward to seeing her. In fact, I put her in touch with her gas pump girls director before he passed away because she wanted more pictures from that film for the cons because people have been asking. And
Oh, sure.
unfortunately, Joel Bender had passed away, but he not before they connected. And I was so happy that I made that happen before he passed. And but
So when is the festival taking place?
It's gonna be up. I'm leaving here October 24th, but it's going on the 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Okay.
I'm assisting Lisa Langlois from the movie
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she
Uh-huh.
was in Class of 1984. She invited me to my first con, and I've done 3 with her. You know, this will be my third with her. So I always love Lisa, and she's that was my first time out in New Brunswick here.
Oh,
And
goodness.
I'm 51 years old, but in
Well, I
2017,
can beat you. I went to my very first con anything in May this past year, in this past May. Rocky Mountain Horror Con here in Denver.
uh-huh,
Okay. Um, Dee Wallace narrated my last documentary I did, and she was going to be in town, so we had a little lunch and chit chat, and then she had to go in, and she goes, "Are you coming in?" I go, "I don't have a ticket. I've never been." She goes, "Oh, you'll get you hooked up." So somebody came and brought me a badge to come in and went in ahead of time, right? So I didn't really quite know what to expect. I mean, I had my ideas. I I spent quite a while just walking around kind of enamored with everything. And there was one side that was set up, a lot of people with FX and makeup and
mhm,
all that stuff. And I kept standing staring at this mask and I was like, that was interesting. And the guy said, "Oh, how so?" And I said, I'm not really familiar with this mask. And he goes, "Oh, you must be used to Captain Kirk, you know, John Carpenter's mask." And I said, "Oh, yeah," because I said I worked on Halloween. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, really?" And he goes, "Well, this stuff here is from Rob Zombie's movies." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But I thought, wow, I learned something new. I was like, "Oh, there is a difference," you know? which was quite remarkable to talk to all the individuals and fascinated by makeup and special effects and getting to talk with some of the folks that have done some incredible work. So I may have gotten bitten by that bug.
Oh, it was I remember the first time I went, and it was my first time on a plane and my first time, really out of New Brunswick, outside Prince Edward Island, but it was just amazing, and Lisa has become a friend and, taught me all about how to use the subways and the streetcars, which we don't have here,
Right?
and, she helped me get my first passport, done up just in case she does some cons in the States, you
Okay.
know?
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love Lisa, and, but nonetheless, here's my Dee Wallace story.
Okay.
I met her, she's been on the show here twice.
Okay.
He,
I
I
love
met
Dee
her
Wallace.
I love Dee Wallace too. I met her at Horrorama 2018, and it was the first time I've been to a con, and I wish more people would do this because I hate carrying cash on me. She had a machine at her table.
She does.
I'm like, I wish more because I hate carrying cash on me. I just love getting the card out and keep. But nonetheless, she's the only one too. Now, another thing is that she's in a movie that I'm a co-producer on called 13 Fanboy.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And so she's part of that. I wasn't on set, I just contributed to the uh the campaign to put it together, but
Okay.
none-
Excellent.
nonetheless, yeah, nonetheless, D was fun and signed my ET Blu-ray and my Howling Blu-ray.
Ah, see, that's the thing. She said, you know how she calls everybody baby. Hey, baby. And so she's like, get one, whatever one of these you want, I said, I want to take the classic ET. I got to have the ET poster. So she signed that for me. And so, yeah, I admire her and her work and great human being. And
Yeah.
everybody, I will say this, her line was long. People were standing in line to talk to that woman.
Yeah, she was lovely, and I delighted. I had her on here twice, once on a Zoom like this, and
Hmm.
very expressive, lovely, very giving lady. Loved Dee Wallace, so I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's funny too because we go back. I don't know how much you're on set for Halloween, but I just wanted to know. Speaking of stars, we all know, like when you look at, say, Star Wars, everybody thinks, Harrison Ford was a breakout from that. But really, Alec Guinness really was at the time the
Yeah.
star of the movie. Well, in Halloween, we know that Jamie Lee Curtis was a breakout star from the movie, but but going into it, Donald Pleasance
Donald
was the
Pleasance.
name.
Yep.
Did you meet Donald Pleasance?
Um, no. Mm-mm. Nope. But my friend did. He was on set that day, and I'm like, I always told him I'm so jealous because I always kind of admired him and he was so good, you know. And so when I did know that name going in that he was part of the film, but you know, I've been on a lot of film sets that I never see certain people, as you know, because if you're not on set. Like I worked with Mary Steenburgen on Powder, but and Sean Patrick Flannery, but there's a lot of people on there I didn't have any scenes with, so you don't see them. It's very natural.
Hmm?
I did have a chance to have breakfast with Jeff Goldblum one morning
Oh,
because he
that
just
must have
happened
been
to be
cool.
there. Well, it was really cool because we're on set and I'm sitting at the table and I'm eating and I'm thinking, dang, he's tall. And I don't even know who it is from the back. I'm just like, wow, that's a tall dude. And then he came and said, can I sit here? So sure. So,
Oh
you have
man.
your little moments where you get to meet certain people that maybe you don't have scenes with. And then, people always say, well, surely you know so and so. And I'm like, no. Well, I thought you said you worked on this movie. Well, I did. I just wasn't on set that day, or vice versa. So it it
Do I?
it was always a something that I wished I had been on set with Donald.
Yeah. Do I dare ask, and I apologize if this is a touchy subject, but you mentioned Powder. I saw that in the theater. Um, I know the controversy surrounding Victor Salva.
Yeah,
Any
you
comments on
know,
that?
here's the thing. Um, I honestly did not know the controversy when I did the role. I did not know it until
Hmm.
I ran into Mary Steenburgen at the Temecula International Film Festival. My first directorial debut film was premiering there. So I was at opening night, and she was getting an award. And I kind of was hanging back, and I thought, oh, I don't want to just bombard her. She doesn't know who I am. She's not going to remember me. And my friend said, "Oh, well, just wait, and maybe you can just like wave at her or something."
Hmm.
And so when I waved at her, and she kind of looked at me, and I said, "I just wanted to say hi. We were on set together for Powder." And then she called me by my character name. She was like, "Mrs. Kubler." She goes, "Tell me
Nice.
your name." So we had a conversation just in that short little time period. I said, "Yeah, it didn't seem like the film did as well. I when it came out, I wasn't even really aware of when it came out. Although I ran into Victor in Pasadena, they were doing a screening to get sort of audience feedback kind of thing. And I walked in, and he said, "Mrs. Kubler, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I was just walking down the street with my sister, and somebody asked me if I want to go see a free movie." And I said, "Yes." So Mary and I talked about it, and I know it's a hot topic, and
Hmm.
rightfully so, and I get all that. But I was not aware of it. I never saw any bad behavior or anything that I felt was questionable. But we kind of came to the conclusion that, you know, and most people don't know, I don't know, a lot of people probably don't know, I should say. He actually wrote this. He wrote Powder after he'd gone to prison,
Hmm.
and was already out, and he couldn't get a job, and working from home kind of thing. And that's when he wrote it. And so you have to kind of take the position that he did go to prison, he did do his time. And but there were a lot of people making sure that, you know, the film did much better and released with DVDs and everything else.
Well, I don't support his actions, but
Nobody does.
I saw the first two Jeepers Creepers movies in the theater, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew about his actions when I saw them. I was just interested in the movies. I wasn't a big fan of the movies, but that had nothing to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, look, I know people that won't go see certain people because of certain things. If you start doing that with everybody, we all have skeletons in our closet. You
Right.
might as well
And
cancel
then
everybody,
then you'll see nothing. No.
you know. I still love watching Kevin Spacey movies.
Yeah.
I don't agree with what he was accused of, but I can take the person and just
Right.
look at the character. Same with Woody Allen, same with Roman Polanski. I love Chinatown, love Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
I can't stop liking those movies because of this. But if that's the case, then every single person is going to have a skeleton in their closet about something,
Well,
you know?
it's funny you mentioned Polanski because I was working on something with Billy Fraker,
Mhm.
and some people know who he is and some people don't. But
William Friedkin?
Billy Fraker.
Oh, the director of The Exorcist.
No,
No?
no, did Billy Fraker direct The Exorcist?
Oh, I thought you meant like Billy
William
Frank. Oh,
Freakin,
okay.
no, Billy
Oh, okay.
Fraker, cinematographer on Rosemary's Baby,
Oh, okay.
and cinematographer on Tombstone, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and a few others. But he was nominated 6 times for Oscars. So we had a mutual friend, and he was going to shoot this film of mine, and unfortunately his cancer came back. But we spent a couple Monday nights watching Monday Night Football at Dan Tana's, and uh, he would have his scotch and we'd watch football and then we'd talk some film stuff. And then he was telling me, he says, I, I don't know how you feel about Polanski. And he was not,
Hmm.
what did he say? He had his own way of doing things. And he said, I thought he was just crazy. I thought he was a loon. And I said, okay, how so? And he said, well, he asked me to shoot that shot through the keyhole. And I thought, oh, you're crazy. But okay, I'll do it. So he said, when I realized he was brilliant, that we sat in the theater and watched the dailies and everybody turned their heads sideways to look through the keyhole. And he said, that's when I knew his his crazy might just be a little brilliant. And so, I've heard all these different stories from people that had the opportunity to work with different individuals. And I will, I can say that Victor Salva was very kind to me. And I never auditioned for that, by the way.
Hmm.
I had gone to a workshop that a friend was hosting at a small theater in Houston, and she said, "Hey, why don't you bring a headshot and resume and just throw it on the pile?" I'm like, "Okay, whatever." But I'm just gonna observe what's going on. And the casting director was Joanna Bolden, and at that time, that she was based out of Austin, Texas. A lot of films were being done in Texas at the time, and I think probably 2 months or maybe even three went by, and I got a phone call at my day job. I worked in aerospace, and somebody from my church said, "This casting director is looking for you." And I hung up on them because I thought they were messing with me.
Hmm.
And they called back. They said, "No, no, no, you got to take this number down. You got to call them." Okay. I don't know what it was about. So when I called, yeah, the director, he really wants you. And I said, "Who's he? And what are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, we have your headshot and resume, and based on the acting roles that you've done on stage, he would like you to play a specific role." I said, "Well, he didn't even know I could speak." Like, okay. And they said, "Nope. He says he wants you from your look and the roles that you've played on stage. He knows you're the right person." I thought, okay. So I showed up there, and a funny thing, I mean, you know how production is. So I sat there for like 6 days, and they never used me. And I thought maybe they changed their mind, and somebody forgot to tell me. But as it turned out, they ended up cutting the scene completely. The film was running too long, he told me. However, I got a call from a friend in Canada one late, yeah, I guess it was after midnight, Houston time, and called and said, "I just saw you on Entertainment Tonight." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm thinking, I'm not in anything. And he said, "Oh no, it was blah, blah, blah." And they talked about the movie. So lo and behold, I never made it to the film, but I at least made it on Entertainment Tonight. But he was very kind to me. And when I ran into him in Pasadena, and I think he was very talented. I can look back at how he was working with individuals and setting up the shots and things like that. And my experience was very good on powder.
Yeah, I remember when that came out because I went based on the fact that I saw no advertisements for it, and I was like, "What's this?" So I just kind of went based on curiosity more than anything,
Hmm.
you know. Then you add Jeff Goldblum in there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, there's some good talent in there.
Hmm. Yeah. Talk about Independence Day.
Oh my. Well, I was at the American Academy in Los Angeles, and I was just there for a summer program, and they didn't want you to audition. They didn't want you doing anything. But I went to the academy when I was 35. Everybody else is much younger, and my group I was the youngest in my group. My group went to 35 to 60. And we were we were walking down the street. There were about four of us, and they had these little strip phone numbers on the power poles. You know, they used to stick you pull the number and call it. And it said acting workshop, Vaccaro. And I clicked and I said, I wonder if that's Brenda Vaccaro. And I
Oh,
said,
Midnight
I'm,
Cowboy.
yeah. So I called, and it was her that answered. You can't mistake that voice. And so just one of the guys from the four of us that were together, he went with me to the workshop. And there was a guy there working with her. And at the end of the class, they said, this is, I don't even remember his name, but he's in charge of the safety, and he's looking for a few more extras. And if anybody wants to go, this is where they go. So we went to the Omni Hotel that night, and then they took us to the top of the Omni Hotel, and the wind was blowing like crazy, and we were supposed to be all jazzed about, woo, gonna go up with the space people, you know, and that was something else because it was scary up there. And he was very good about telling us where we needed to be, and don't get past this part on the rooftop, because in LA they build those new buildings, they kind of sway when the wind is really bad, and you could see the helicopters kind of having trouble because we're supposed to be reacting to the cameras up on the helicopters. And so they were like, you take this sign, you're the first one in the front, and you're going to be yelling, I want to go, I want to go. And of course, I think for a long time I thought I was meant to be the extra that was never seen, because and they'd give me a line or something, and then in the movie cut, it's where the screens are all on the wall and watching everything that's going on, and it goes right when I'm getting to my spot. I know where I am and I can see me, but if you don't know where to look, you're never going to see me.
Oh,
But it was a blast, and again, a lot of sitting around time, watching people, talking with people, finding out, okay, what is your job? And for me, I felt like I was getting an education about what I might need for the future, just by, oh, you do that? Okay. I mean, I would literally write stuff down and then I'd go look it up. So I was kind of giving myself my own film school, so to speak.
well, you went on, of course, to do a lot of stuff behind the camera. I know you've uh, directed and you produced. And
Hmm.
talk about dipping your toes in those areas.
Yeah. Well, when I did my first film,
Hmm.
directing and producing The Goal, um, it was it was my film school. And you know I had helped somebody else out on a student film, and met these couple of these guys, and they're like, what's your story? And I said, well, I've got a film I want to make. I have a script I wrote. um I said I carried the story for like 12 years, and it's based on a friend who broke his neck training for the Olympics as a cyclist and things like that. And so um I said, look, I got enough money to buy two Canon XL2 cameras, mini DV tape. That tell you how long ago that was. And so we we made it happen. We didn't shoot a short before. We just made a full-length feature film. And that film went on. It did very well in the faith community and won a lot of awards. It was, boy, it catapulted me in front of the camera doing Q&As at film festivals.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it was it really was my film school. And I each one of us knew enough to be dangerous. We really didn't know much of anything. Some people have been had worked in broadcast journalism, but it was their first time shooting a feature. They'd shot maybe one short each. And I mean, it was dealing with spinal cord injuries and things like that, and these athletes, and it was a narrative. But I mean, we got some pretty high level gifts given to us. I mean, life flight. It's not cheap to fly life flight. It's $10,000 at least when they started up. Well, they flew it twice for us because they radioed down and said, "Hey, ask the director if she wants us to fly again." And I was like, "Sure. If they're going to ask, why not get the extra footage, right?" But it was really a great film for people who's had families going through spinal cord injuries and not understanding anything. And it allowed me to do some things I had never, ever would have thought I would do. They invited me to, we shot it at Craig Hospital here in Denver, Colorado. They're world renowned for spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries. They asked me if I would come in and give DVDs out to families and members while I mean, they had young kids, young teenagers that were in there with broken necks. So that was pretty hard to do, but it really, it opened doors and it allowed people to come back and tell me how the film actually helped their family and their loved one to get through it. So that kind of, it's really odd because from that moment on, I became the filmmaker with a cause, and people would bring me stories, and they want me to tell those films, you know. So that's really how that part got started. And you know, I'd been on film on set as an actor, and I'd done stage as an actor, and I know how to put a stage production together and everything. Same skills, even working in aerospace manufacturing, doing scheduling and contracts and all that. So all those skills transfer over into the industry. So it was a good baseline. And so, you know, the goal really was my film school per se. And each film we've gotten better because technology's gotten better and you hone your craft. And you know, sometimes I'd say, "Are you guys sure that's the right shot? Because that doesn't look like the right shot." And back then, I didn't know what they were called. I just knew I liked a shot that did this, or I knew, you know, I want you to push in, or, you know, I said, "How do I get the shot like such and such in this movie?" And the cinematographer said, "Oh, you want a dolly shot? Yeah, we don't have a dolly, so you can't have that." I was like, "Okay."
You mentioned the word faith. Now, was the goal a Christian-based film?
Yes, it was
Oh,
based
nice.
on,
I come from I grew up Christian, so
well, it comes from the fact that um our pastoral care pastor's
hmm
son was training for the Olympics as a cyclist,
hmm
and he was in this particular park down in Houston, and there'd been a storm the day before, and when he came out around this hairpin curve, what they call it, dead man's curve, this tree had fallen across. So he locked up his brakes and it launched him over the handlebars and down the ravine and into a tree head first. So he healed and he announced, a friend of the families, we're all good friends, and his parents told me, "Oh, he says he's going to play this crazy wheelchair rugby." And I said, "Oh my Lord." And he's like, what's it going to hurt? I already have a broken neck. Can't get any worse, right? So if you haven't seen it, wheelchair rugby, they called it murder ball, and it came out of Canada.
Hey, I seen that.
Yes.
Yeah, it was called Murder Ball. That played at the Silverway Film Festival here
Yep.
in
Great
Fredericton.
movie.
But yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So Murder Ball came out as a documentary, and mine came out as a narrative family film version
Okay.
of Murder Ball, pretty much. And so I met all of these amazing athletes when I went to watch him play for the first time. And I
Hmm.
met their families, and I was like, someone needs to tell this story. And so one thing led to another. And my sister said, I think you're supposed to write this, because I was waiting on somebody else to write it for me. And I didn't even know there was software for writing. I just wrote it in Microsoft Word, and that's what we shot. So yeah, it's very strong faith-based film. It did very well. It won in Mumbai, India. It won several awards in Milan, Italy, at the what do they call it? Fix, FICTS, and it's sanctioned by the International Olympic Committee, that film festival. So it did really well, and we got distribution, and it was in Blockbuster. So that's how long ago that was. We don't even have Blockbusters anymore.
Nope. We used to a long, 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 long time ago, you
But it
know?
was kind of cool to go into Blockbuster and see your film, even if you only had 10 copies in there. It didn't matter. You had 10 copies in this one and 20 in this store. And we'd go to all these different stores in different states. And if I couldn't get to them, I'd tell my friend, go to the Blockbuster and take a picture of yourself in front of my film. So it was kind of fun.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think, uh, there you are behind the camera and you're doing directing and you're doing producing. Is there anything, maybe that is the film, but is there anything that you've done that right now is what you're most proud of in terms of your project?
Gosh, they each have their own little proud thing over the years.
Mhm.
Um, but my most recent is a documentary.
Mhm.
Um, Courageous Warriors, Beauty from the Ashes. And it took us 4.5 years to make it. I interviewed over 100 breast cancer survivors and their caregivers. And then I had to whittle it down to who says it best. Um, but but honestly, I get emails once in a while still from other productions, because I have stuff out there on different platforms. And so I have new generations seeing older films and things like that. So that's kind of cool. But the Courageous Warriors, I think it's probably the one I'm the most proud of at this point, because um a lot of people have been helped by it already. Um my mom lost her battle with breast cancer at the age of 60. I started that film at 60, when I was 60. And so it did things I didn't know it was going to do. Honestly, it was very raw, uh, and it was people telling their journey. And there's one section it's called the shit show, and so
I
you were
love
like,
that.
oh my God, you should change that title. And I said, no, that is the crap they go through. And
Oh, I love it.
it's got to be, you got to be raw, and you got to be honest. And so people people have been affected in a way that we featured an organization called Hope Held by a Horse, which is equine therapy, but it was for breast cancer only. And so we kind of made the suggestion, maybe you should allow other cancers too. And they have started doing that here in Denver, Colorado. But they are launching other organizations, like a spinoff in a Kansas. In Kansas, there's going to be one. I think there's one going to be in either North Carolina or Florida or something like that. And then there's potential for another one in outside of Nashville. So the fact that it's opening the doors up for more people to experience some of what these men and women, because most people don't realize men can get breast cancer. But we address a lot of things that would be considered alternative in the documentary, because when people have gone through it 3, 4, 5 times, they get to a point where they don't care if you tell me to lick the rock and eat dirt and I'm going to feel better, I'll do it. So we made sure that we wanted to really tell it from their point of view, and maybe you have to be really careful when you do stories like that, because we're not medical professionals and we're not providing medical information. We're just saying, here's these people's individual stories and here's what they experienced and tried. Some things worked for some things worked for others. But the most important thing is, I think, out of that film is to make people understand you have the right to advocate for yourself or your loved one, period. Doesn't matter what the pushback might be. If the pushback is something that you can't handle at that moment, then go outside, walk around the building, circle, and come back and hit them again with it. Because everybody deserves to have an opportunity. And, it's a big, cancer's a big money-making machine. And so if my film has opened people's eyes from a certain point of view, and it's not a death sentence diagnosis necessarily anymore. I wish my mom and my best friend would have had the opportunities that these men and women have now. So I have to say it's the one that I'm the most proud of.
That's awesome. Now, Halloween has turned 45 this year. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's funny because I had to think about that for a moment, because for some reason in my mind, I thought I was a little younger when it was
Mhm.
made. And then it dawned on me, oh no, I was 19, because Jamie and I are the same age, just a few months apart. And I was like, wait a minute, we shot that in May. I was still 19. I turned 20 in July. So
July
and I,
what?
July 31st.
Oh, okay, I'm July 8th, that's why.
Okay. No, I was due then. I was due early. I didn't come until the end of the month. So my mother wasn't happy about that, but um yeah, I think it you know, I think I experience a resurgence of interest every year. Like I've had these two young guys um Instagram me and say, we're trying to get everybody's autograph that's ever been in the original Halloween. And I keep telling them, you do know I was an extra, right? Uh, you know, and they're like, yeah, but this is our goal. So I thought I'll tell them this year, if they come back to me, I will sign that for them, because it's the 45th, right? It's a big deal.
Mhm.
And if it makes them happy, so be it. But what a legacy of film, and I mean, that has been created as a result of the original. And I will say this, and not I know it's a kind of a political football. I personally wish they wouldn't have made the last one. I wish they would have stopped with the one before, when they brought all the people from the original. And I did write, trying to get to somebody and say, I really want to be in that. And I didn't get to do it. So I was very upset about that, but that's okay.
I wish they had this last group of movies. I wish that they had did what they were originally going to do, have all three of them take place the same night. I don't like the direction Halloween ends went in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Don't like
had
it at all.
issues. Yeah, and I didn't like the ending of Kills. There was a particular individual that was killed in it that I would have ended it with the beat down on Myers, and when they turn
Right?
back, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Then continue it on the because there's been enough drama in the life of Laurie Strode. You don't need another death. and her family, So I had a little issue with that
I
extended
really
ending.
wanted her and the sheriff to be tight
Here's
together.
here's another problem too. They brought back the legacy characters, and I
Right.
don't know what David Gordon Green was thinking, but I'm like, unless there's cut scenes, why were we not treated to a moment between Charles Cypers and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah.
Like,
See?
that was important,
Yeah.
and it never happened,
See, and that's what I'm talking about. There were a couple things that I went, huh? What? Yeah.
Yep. Now, I gotta say, Kyle Richards grew up stunning. I gotta say, she's beautiful.
Yep.
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 Uh,
She was a kid. She was a kid doing that.
no pigtails
Lot younger
anymore.
kid than me. But
Yep.
well, and
Yep.
the thing, like you said about the last one, I didn't particularly care for how uh they depicted Michael.
No, like I mean, like him
Like he
getting the
was like
mat.
this weak thing underground there, and
Yeah.
there was a little hint of him. Who? No, you don't have a hint of him as that's like that's just not the story. That's not the setup. For me, anyhow, I kept wanting, you wanted that intensity of the original,
Yep.
which they had that even that cheesy bit, that was in both the original and the kills. So um that was my disappointment, but the thing is everybody was talking about it. So is it see? I mean, people were watching it because they thought, oh my God, it's going to end and I've not seen anything, so I better watch it. So of course they did very well at the box office. And because of having come off of COVID, having the other one, you could watch it at home streaming at the same time.
I
Oh
saw
my
them all in the
gosh.
theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta say, like I watched Halloween last night, and I'll probably watch Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved how those two, even though they were made 3 years apart, they
Right.
actually looked like they were filmed simultaneously. Because
Correct.
yeah, I do like Halloween 2. Um, I like Danielle Harris when she comes into it in the fourth one, but I think the fifth one is so bad.
I think
You know?
everybody thinks that, right? Don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
That seems to be the number that is always presented to me. And I always say it's interesting because people take an approach when they're chatting with you, they'll think as if I had something to do with it, and I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with that.
And I wasn't a fan of H2O, but Resurrection really jumped the shark when they
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
um, Busta Rhymes.
Buster,
Nothing against
yes.
Busta Rhymes, but when he goes trick or treat, motherfucker, and then karate kicks at him, I'm just like, oh God, oh, come on, They had an opportunity with these new set of movies, and I'm like, I got the 2018 version here, and I got Kills here, but I cannot bring myself to get the Halloween Ends. I'm like
I can't
bothered
do
by
it.
some. Yep, like I prefer the Rob Zombie ones, to be frank.
Oh, wow.
Yep, at
Well,
least
that
that
says
had
something.
at least
Yeah.
that had Sherry Moon in it, at least.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, and I wasn't even a big fan of the Rob Zombie versions. I think he just made the characters way, way, way too crass for what they
Yeah.
should have been. But I mean, I like Devil's Reject, so it's not like Rob Zombie hasn't done stuff I like. But I don't particularly. I'm not a big fan of his handling of the Halloween franchise.
Well,
But
and the thing is, I mean, my understanding is John told him to make his movie.
yep,
So,
yep. Well, and the original Halloween 2, I wish they didn't do the sibling thing.
hmm
But they didn't need to do that. But here's one
It
thing
was
I
it was a little overkill. They didn't need to do that. No.
but yeah, but here's the thing. They had the 2018 version, and they said that's going to be a direct sequel after the original. But then you got Halloween Kills, and it's like all this chaos at the hospital, all these people. But if it takes place after the original, you got, and I'm not looking down on the fact you got people dying, but you
Right.
had two or three people that were killed. You would think everybody in the town would go up in arms after what went on in Halloween 1 and 2, where you
Right.
had a bunch of doctors that were nurses killed in that one. They
Yeah.
should have had Halloween 1, Halloween 2, then go to 2018.
There you go.
I I had an issue with
I
that
agree with that
decision.
right there.
Yep, yep. So I don't know what to say with it because it seems to me every time they try to retcon something, they screw something up. And I wish
Well,
that they
isn't that
would.
the truth? Yeah.
Yep. And it's like now they're.
Well, it's like this. They may have screwed something up, but they have made history.
Mhm. Yeah. Now they're talking about like the new Exorcist is not doing well, and I saw that and I was like, yeah, I can kind of see why. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about Friday the 13th. Well, the problem with Friday the 13th, they can't really retcon too much with that because
Mm-hmm.
the killer's not really in the original movie. So retconning after that, you're going to tick off a lot of people,
Sure.
and there's a lot of the sequels that are liked more than the original one, like for Friday the 13th tonight, I'm going to watch either part 4 or part 6 because they're kind of my go-tos for that franchise. But but when it comes to retconning, it's like if you're going to do it, get a fan, somebody that loves the franchise. Vincent DeSante did Never Hike Alone. He knows enough about that franchise. Let him
Mm-hmm.
do it. Let him do
Mm-hmm.
it. But they always bring somebody in that knows nothing about it. It's like Freddy versus Jason, for example. The director Ronnie Yu, he only watched the original Friday the 13th and original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm like, he was the wrong guy to do this movie.
He was available.
Yeah. Well, Elm Street, I get it because Freddy's in it. Jason's
Right.
only in a couple of scenes in that original film. I'm sorry. You either watch part 4, the final chapter, or part 6, Jason Lives, or don't do the movie. If you're going to watch one of those two. Then you get the gist of Jason. But they're always thinking money, money, money. It's like think with your brain. And that was a one big problem with the new Halloween movies. It's like they should have had it right after they did the beatdown on Michaels and Kills. They're doing the
Right.
little celebration, have them turn back, and he's missing.
He's gone.
He's gone. That would have been the perfect place to end.
Right.
Keep Judy Greer around. I'm sorry, spoiler alert, but I didn't care. I didn't care for that decision.
Yeah.
Didn't care for it, and then have it continue on the same night.
Right.
Would have been great to have the ending of the third part end at dawn.
I
So
know, but don't you hate it when they don't ask us?
no, they think
That's
they
what
know, but they don't know shit. Basically,
I always
no.
say, I have an opinion, but they didn't ask me, but I wouldn't have done that. That's why the last one, I just was really disappointed. I thought, really? I really wasted my time because they just
I
didn't stay true to
I
I,
like the Corey Cunningham character and the actor. The problem is, why are they introducing him at the end of this trilogy?
right, exactly my point. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then they didn't do anything with. I mean, they got rid of one of a couple of the legacy characters and kills, but I mean, they did nothing with Kyle Richards in that
I
third.
know that's what I didn't understand either.
Like I
There
I
was
would have done something with her.
it's after like she had so much verbato and character and moxie and everything. and then I was expecting to see a little bit more,
Hmm.
and it wasn't
Yeah.
there.
I would have loved to have seen more of her, and like I think the fact that they decided to have it take place 4 years, like I can't. I like the way they dispatched Myers at the end of it, but they could have
Yeah,
still done that, and without all this other crap that they had in with it. So
yeah.
I have a hard time with that one. I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Do you have a favorite of the sequels? Halloween 2?
I would have to I would have to say, really honestly, when you know when they brought all the legacy people back, that was that's my favorite, hands down, my favorite. There were just enough of the comical components from the original there. I mean, that whole thing where Kyle's hiding under
I did
the
like that.
the little bridge thing. That was that was like, oh my
That was
God,
great.
this
That
is great.
and yet they didn't use her hardly at all in that third
No,
part. It's like, you
no,
know, it was nice to see her all grown up, and I love the fact that she got to go into the third one. The problem is they didn't use her. So
right.
there are a lot of creative decisions that I thought were a
That was
mess.
I will tell you, that was a money thing. That was a ka-ching, pulling from the housewives audience. Oh, Kyle's over here working again. That's what I think, but that's just my
Well,
thoughts.
I wish they would get her at some of the cons because I think fans would love to see her. But
Well,
yeah,
she's busy with housewives.
busy with housewives, but we got to get her back in the pigtails and
Yeah, there you go.
see if.
I would love to get her on one of my projects. I got something in development that we're gonna probably shoot in November, but um I'm looking to pull somebody in. I have two cameo roles that have to tie to other something else in the horror genre. So it's like, okay, well, do I go to try to get this person? Do I try to get this person? Maybe I could get Dee Wallace if she's available, or maybe I could get, Kyle Richards, Pie in the Sky, Cassandra Peterson, even. You've
What
got,
about PJ Souls?
I'm thinking about PJ. I really have been thinking long and hard about that today.
I'll
Matter of
tell you
fact,
another one you might try is Sandy Johnson,
yeah, I thought
who
about
played.
Sandy.
Yep, Sandy's. She's a doll.
I think I think PJ could would be perfect, but either one of those people would be perfect because there's it's a psychological thriller scene, and then it's
Hmm.
like, oh wait, did that really happen, or was that person dreaming this, or were they out of it, kind of thing. And I was explaining it to my team today when we were working on some things in the script, and and they were like, you have to realize I have a mixture on my team that some are very young, and then there's myself and a couple others that are one other person my age, and then somebody that's a little bit younger, kind of in between. And there was a little bit of the deer in the headlights with some of the younger ones because they don't know some of those legacy actors from the genre that you might want to pull in to give a little nod to the precursor film kind of thing. And so we're gonna do that a little bit. And I hope that I want to see how much the fans pick up down the road on that. And maybe it will fall flat on my face, but
Oh,
I
I say go for it. Go for it.
I'm just swinging for the fence. You know what I'm saying?
I'd love
So
to
it
have you come.
basically it's called it's working title is Twisted Faith Unleashed. And
Ah, okay.
so so it has some interesting, and it's older teenagers. So there's some teenagers, but there's some older characters that I want to bring in that would be Oh, that's so and so, that kind of thing. So you can kind of cross-pollinate audience base.
I
I
love
hope,
that.
anyhow.
Well, I'll tell you what, next year, I'd love to have you come back on. And if you have this project all under
I'm
wraps,
hoping that I'm hoping it's gonna be in distribution for sure, because that's
yeah.
why we're shooting it November this year, just so that we can have
Okay.
it all ready.
Well, I'm going to bring your name up to Sean Clark and see if maybe we can get you at some cons, because he handles all of these, all the Halloween folks, and I heard him talk about how he first got Nick Castle to a con
Mm,
and Jamie Lee Curtis, and so he does a lot of that. So uh, I know
that
he
would be
was.
fun.
Yeah, I wish we had done this before the 45th anniversary bus tour thing because he handles that, So, but I'll bring you up to him and
Okay, that would be
you mind
awesome.
you mind if I give him your contact info?
Oh no, you please do.
Yep. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, trust them, and she texts with them. You could trust them, So you're in good hands with them. But but nonetheless, it was wonderful having you come on here today.
Thanks so much. It was
Yeah. Oh, I
fun.
got Kim Gottlieb's book here too. I forgot to
Oh,
mention
very
that.
cool.
Had her on here.
I need to get that actually,
I
a
ordered
copy of
that.
that.
I ordered that for the interview, and yeah, I got it in the shelf back there. But
I have one of
glad.
those in the works too. I just a book. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Well, there you go, and we can have you back on here to promote that.
That would be awesome.
I'm open to that. I'm totally open to that.
I thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I really do.
I do too.
I love
Before
talking about movies in general. Doesn't
Oh, I
matter.
do too. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say before I let you go, do you have a web page you want to plug on here or any charities
Oh,
that you want to plug?
well, yeah, I would I would like to plug the charity of Hope Held by a Horse, because they're doing great things with breast cancer and other cancers for equine therapy, and they're expanding other places in the United States, because it started here in Colorado.
Hmm?
People always laugh. You're plugging Colorado. Well, I'm originally from Los Angeles. Does that count? But so I would say Hope Held by a Horse. And then you know, let's see. What else did you ask? There was another question in there.
Any web page or
Oh
anything like
yeah, my
that?
webpage. You can go to filmitproductions.com. And I also have another page, is Courageous Warriors Project. And so all of those films on that website really have to do with like true stories based on courageous warriors, the individuals that have done remarkable things and their life stories. So you can get my information at either one of those.
Okay. Well, you know what? Before I let you go, I would love a plug for my show. Just
I I would love to give you a plug, and I want to make sure, how do you want to be framed in that, in your show?
state your name
I
and
mean,
just
this is Darla Rae, and I just think Greg is amazing. And I think anybody should jump on this opportunity to have a chat with you, because you're so prolific at all your knowledge in regards to film just in general, but the horror genre is right up your alley, right?
totally, as PJ Souls would say.
As totally, I know, don't you love how can you talk about PJ Souls and not talk about Totally?
Totally. I can't wait to meet her at Frightmare because she's totally
Greg
gonna
is just
bombard her with
totally
that.
awesome, Gilbert. How about that?
There you go. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time. And like I said, the door is open. I want to put you on the roster for next year as well. And
Okay, we'll do that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, God bless you.
God
Keep the
bless you, and you
faith
have a
and
great evening. That's right.
yes, and you enjoy your night and happy 45th John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yes, to John and the whole cast and crew.
When you do your next film, maybe you should get him to off to the side and maybe puff a little thing
Puff
of
a
smoke.
little, puff a little smoke out there. Oh, you just gave me an idea. I might have to float some smoke into my film there.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Well,
All right. Well,
anyway,
you have a good evening, okay?
you too. Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care. Bye.
Yep. Bye bye.